Hey guys, it's Angli Et Nex here again, and today I'm going to show you my PVE Slam Great Weapon Fighter build. With the daily Slam active and the feats that we have spec'd into Destroyer, you will see a 25% increase in your power, thus a huge increase in your DPS. Even as a low item level, this build works. I hope you guys enjoy it, and let's get into this build. As you can see, I am a half orc, I am a swordmaster great weapon fighter, and I am just barely over 2.4k gear score. This build still works even at a low item level. The only issue that I have at my item level is not having the amount of recovery necessary to keep Slam up 100% of the time. But as you increase your recovery, increase your stats, and increase your critical strike, you will notice that this build works phenomenally. Even at my item level, I still see a huge increase in DPS numbers when I have Slam active. So to start off here, you can see I'm running the Elemental Alliance Assault Sallet just for the critical strike mainly. The armor pen helps out as well, but running this just because I need more crit strike. Then I'm running the Dusk Assault Scale Mail with a greater negation enchantment. I'm running Elven Assault Vambreezes. I am still running the Ensorcelled Weapons, mainly because I haven't found a good Pug e-demo group, and I haven't started the Bryn Shandar quests yet, so I haven't been trying for my relic weapons, so I elected to stick with the Ensorcelled Weapons for now. But pretty soon this is going to become my main, so I will change this out. And right now I'm running a Transcendent Fate Touch because I am still in the process of leveling up my own Vorpal. And then lastly, Dusk Assault Greaves, just to give myself the 2-piece Dusk set. I'm running the Lost Mouth set, so Lost Mouth Horn, the belt, and the neck piece. But endgame, you will switch this out for the Orcus set. I would probably switch out the Lantern of Revelation for the Orcus Shard, just because having the power and armor pen from the Lost Mouth Horn is always very nice. The Wheel of Elements is my main active artifact, and that is because when you take fire, you get a 30% increase bonus damage for 16 seconds, even at blue. I'm running the Lantern of Revelation and the Sigil of the Controller. Lantern of Revelation, like I said, I'd probably switch this off for the Orcus Shard, just because at that point, when I get to the point of needing the Orcus set and able to run it full time, I won't necessarily need all the stats that offer from this set. I'm running a Ring of Sudden Lifesteal +3 and a Ring of Rising Precision +2. Now obviously these rings are going to change as I get better ones, but those are the two main rings that I'm running right now. And as for stats here, you can see powers at 18,000, crits at 9,000. You want to be about double the power to your crit, and my defense is at almost 11,000. And the reason for the most defense is because we gain power based off of our defense. And then our main stats are going to be strength for the extra damage bonus, and damage resist is always nice, and dex for the critical chance. Dex helps out a lot because this build does have mechanics that proc off of crit, and you want those crits to be big. So if you can get between that 92 to 100% critical mark, that is a big plus for you. And you'll want to run, like I said before, about double the power to your crit. So if you can get up to about that 30,000 mark with your power and get up between the 12 to 15,000 mark for your crit, you're going to be running pretty solid for your build. And then obviously for this build, add a little bit of recovery and defense. Defense is a big one just because of the power that we gain from defense. Powers, here we go. So to start off, Sure Strike, you're going to use this. This is going to be your main DPS for single point targets. This thing hits hard. It doesn't say like it hits very hard with the tooltip, but this is where the brunt of your damage comes from in single target damage, other than IBS. But IBS has a roughly 10-second cooldown at my item level, so you use Sure Strike a lot. Not so fast. The only reason I have 3 points in this is because I was spec'd into Instigator and respec'd into Destroyer, so not so fast gave me combat advantage. And then Spinning Strike, same thing, just helped me build up my determination faster. Destroyer, when you hit more than 3 targets, you gain stacks of damage. So this is going to be pretty much all the time. Even on boss fights, just because of the feats that we run, you have a 25% chance on a strike to gain a stack of Destroyer when you hit any amount of enemies. So Destroyer is going to pretty much be proc 100% of the time. Restoring Strike, you could swap this out for IBS if you're having issues with survivability, because this will heal you when it hits. So if you're up in Icewind Dale and having some issues with survivability, you could put on Restoring Strike just to help you with a little bit of sustain. Avalanche of Steel, I see a lot of people use this in PvP just because it makes you invulnerable, because you jump up into the sky and then come down and slam down on the ground on top of your target. So I see a lot of people use it for PvP, not necessarily for PvE. Slam, this is the main function of this build. Because of our feats, we gain 25% power, but also what this does is it does a buff to us and a debuff to the enemy. So on top of the 25% power, you gain a buff and a debuff from this feat just being from this daily just being active. And obviously the next PowerPoint that I get is going to go in there. Takedown and bravery are not really important. Bravery is kind of fun because you run it like super cracked out speed, like if you're running around the stronghold, things like that. It's kind of fun to do, doing dragon runs, jumping back and forth. Steadfast Determination, you can use this if you're running an instigator build where you don't gain determination all the time. You only gain determination when you're hit. So you could use this if you're running an instigator build like I was. So that's the only reason why there's 3 points in there. And then Weapon Master, if you don't have a high enough crit, I would highly suggest doing Destroyer and Weapon Master, just because Weapon Master gives you critical chance. And so that helps us out a lot with this build. Getting your crit chance up to 92 to 100% is critical for this build, for any Destroyer build. Daring Shout, we're using Daring Shout because we are feated into gaining 15% more damage against marked targets. So this works like a Guardian Fighter's enforced threat, so we mark targets and deal a little bit of damage to them when we use this, and this helps us out a lot with damage spec. Flourish, you could use this also if you're running your dailies and having some issues with survivability, things like that, because this does have a stun mechanic in it. So you could switch this out for IBS or whichever one you like. Weapon Master Strike, this is going to be on your left trigger. We are spec'd into Weapon Master Strike, reducing the damage mitigation to us. So any enemy that we hit with Weapon Master Strike, they have a reduced damage mitigation to our attacks. So that's why we're using Weapon Master Strike, and because it hits really hard in an AoE arc in front of you. Savage Advance I don't generally use, and Steel Defense, you could use this in PvP because you gain immunity when you're using a daily. Battle Fury, if you have a good Guardian Fighter or another Great Weapon Fighter that's marking targets properly for you, you could switch to Battle Fury to gain a little bit more damage to your encounter powers and to gain some extra AP gain. So if you have someone properly marking targets for you, I would definitely switch to Battle Fury. It helps out a lot, and then you're not double stacking marks all the time. So it just helps out with the DPS. Helps us out a lot to switch to this. Punishing Charge, don't really use it, just put some points in there to build down. Indomitable Battle Strike, I have seen some players that I play with, I've seen one Great Weapon Fighter in particular that has hit for 144 million in one Indomitable Battle Strike. That is ridiculous. So this is obviously the hardest hitting power that we have. Crescendo, I just have this slotted just for small instances, like maybe running my dailies, things like that. But generally I don't use it because I try to keep up slam as much as possible to keep that plus 25% power up. Grand Fissure and Warrior's Courage don't really use. Hidden Daggers, this is a huge stupid buff for us that does actually pretty good damage in a cone in front of us. So we gain 10% damage to all the enemies hit, and this does like almost like a 90-degree cone in front of you if you were at the right angle. So it does actually hit quite a few enemies, and it does pierce through enemies, so you can hit enemies behind. And then Wrathful Determination, if your crit is high enough, if you are in that 92 to 100% range, take off Weapon Mastery and put on Wrathful Determination, because as your determination fills, you gain more damage. When it's at full determination, you can drop that Indomitable Strike and do a lot of damage. So that helps out a lot. Jumping into feats here, we went 3 for 3 in toughness because as a melee DPS, you tend to get hit a little more. So having that extra hit points does help us out a lot. 3 of 3 here to gain more damage from that strength gives us. So more bonus damage that strength gives us by 6%. And then you gain 25% bonus action points for dealing damage while you're unstoppable. We put 2 points here just because it helps us out gaining some more action points. So it brought us up to 10% bonus action points for dealing damage while you're unstoppable, which is going to be pretty close to 100% of the time. Your encounter powers deal 6% more damage. This helps IBS hit significantly harder. Grant you power equal to 20% of your defense. This is why we want to stack up defense. And then Weapon Mastery, crit chance. You could put 3 of 3 here and sacrifice 3 points in the defense one. It's kind of either or. Me personally, I would rather just stack up the crit chance and critical on my person and take the bonus damage that I get from defense than take 2% on a feat and lose 10% damage on defense. And then obviously 3 points here to increase our crit severity by 15%, which is huge for us. And then we did go 10 points into Sentinel. We heal ourselves when we activate Unstoppable, so we heal and add extra maximum hit points. You deal additional 15% damage to marked targets. This is why we use Daring Shout, and love it when we run with a Guardian Fighter that marks targets properly. Increase the damage that your will powers do by 10%. Since we're going to be using at wills 90% of the time, that's huge for us. Grant power equal to 25% of your recovery and armor penetration. So we're always going to stack armor penetration because that helps us out with damage. And we are going to stack a little bit of recovery in this build so that you can keep slam up 100% of the time. So that's just extra damage that you're going to be dealing. And then here is Weapon Master Strike now reduces the target's mitigation to your attacks. So to your encounter powers, so by 10%. So your encounter powers essentially deal 10% more damage to foes affected by Weapon Master Strike. Then jumping over here, Indomitable Battle Strike and Sure Strike now deal 50% bonus damage to targets when their health diminishes. So as soon as they start dropping below that 100% health mark, you're dealing more damage to them. Focus Destroyer, you have a 25% chance to gain a stack of Destroyer when you hit any amount of enemies. And on top of that, your Destroyer, you gain 3% more damage per stack. And then here's Battle Awareness. Savage Advance grants you 25% shorter cooldowns by 15%, and Slam grants you 25% more power while it's active. So that's where we get the power from Slam. That helps us out a lot with this build, and that's what kind of the function that this build is built around other than Destroyer. And then Destroyer's Purpose, you now gain determination by dealing damage, and while you're unstoppable, it increases your encounter power damage by 20%. That's huge for us. When you deal damage while unstoppable, you gain a stack of Destroyer's Purpose, and this just helps you deal. It stacks up more damage, and that stack lasts for 25 seconds, so you can gain up to 5% more damage while you're unstoppable. That's a big boost to our damage there. As you can see, I haven't completed all of these campaigns yet. This is still not my main tune, but it's becoming my main tune because I love it the way that it is, the way that it works. But I'll still run through all these boons with you just so that you know. So starting with Storm Kings here, you're going to go 2% lifesteal severity and 1,000 maximum hit points. And this one's kind of a toss-up. You could go with the stamina gain, or you could go with the 400 incoming healing. I would probably go with the healing just because I'm a little bit squishy, tend to be. And these two are also kind of a toss-up because the top one is a chance to gain 2,000 recovery, or this one is a chance to deal 2,000 bonus damage on your next attack. So either one is kind of a toss-up. And then this one is also kind of a toss-up because you could add 3,200 to your maximum hit points, or when dealing damage, you have a chance to deal 2,000 fire damage to foes nearby. So if you're going full damage spec, if you're doing the Leonol's Destroyer build without Slam, you could run the full DPS where you're just getting those 2,000 ticks going up. But if you want to be more self-sufficient, go with the 3,200 health. And then really the only option here is Chill of Winter. You build up stacks, and then once you reach your maximum 10 stacks, you release an AoE that does 1,400 damage to targets near you. Sharandar, we're pretty much going offense across the board here, guys. So 400 power, 400 crit, 3% action point gain, 20,000 arcane damage, and then Elvish Fury, which gives us stacks of power, which means more damage. Dread Ring, I selected critical here because my critical is lacking a little bit, but you could obviously go with power. So 250 critical, 400 lifesteal, 3% resistance ignored, more armor pen the better. And then either way, you could go this one, 20,000 necrotic damage, or you could go with the top one. I actually might just respec just to get into this top one because when you take damage, you heal yourself for 20,000 points, and after that subsides, you gain 4,000 defense, which for us, the more defense, the more damage we do because of our feats. And then obviously, Rampaging Madness, building up stacks. When you're at your max stacks of 50 stacks, you gain 4,000 power, 4,000 lifesteal, and 4,000 regen. Icewind Dale, 400 combat advantage bonus. And then again, this one goes either way. I'm taking healing. I will be taking healing just because of the feat or of the boon here that we'll see in just a minute. You're going to go 2% crit severity, and then this one here, gain 2,000 power based on the amount of stamina you're missing. So the faster your stamina regenerates, the shorter you're going to have this buff. So that's why I will probably take the healing over the stamina gain, because the longer my stamina is down, the longer I will have the 2,000 power buff. And then you could obviously go with this one, chance on killing a target to gain 10% action point gain, or you can do Avalanche. You gain stacks, and once you hit 20 stacks, you clear the stacks and deal 15,000 damage to nearby targets. Underdark, 400 power, 1,600 max hit points, 400 critical, 1,600 max hit points. And then you're going to go combat advantage damage bonus is increased by 10%. And then you could go with stamina gain here because control strength really doesn't work for us in PvE. And then the last one is gain 10% damage versus demons. Tyranny of Dragons, power, 400 power, 400 critical, 400 armor pen, and then 400 life steal rating, and then the last one here, 3 of 3 for extra crit severity. Guild boons, power, defense, and summoning sick or res sickness. And going just through these really quick, 3% action point gain. And then this one here is when you attack, you have a chance to gain 2,000 critical strike for 6 seconds. And we are in the traded blades here. So what I'm going to show you is the basic rotations that I use when I'm fighting single points and when I'm fighting mobs. It does change a little bit, but the same basic premise is the same. So to start off here, my powers are Daring Shout, Indomitable Battle Strike, and Hidden Daggers. So I'll show you the mob rotation first. So you run up to your mob, Daring Shout, Daggers, and then Weapon Master Strike. And generally with the mobs, you just Weapon Master Strike all the way through. Activate Unstoppable, and then just keep hitting Weapon Master Strike, just because you're going to be dealing AoE damage, whereas Sure Strike is mainly single point. And you can throw daggers when you're unstoppable. I wouldn't suggest shouting while you're unstoppable because it takes up too much time where you could be dealing damage. And then obviously using IBS to get your unstoppable back helps out a lot. And then as you can see, these dummies are staying dead for quite some time. And as dummies die, or as the mobs that you're fighting die, you can obviously switch to Sure Strike once you get down to those single point mobs. But for this premise, you're going to use Weapon Master Strike all the time. And just rinse and repeat. Just keep rinsing and repeating. And that IBS was a little bit early. You want to try and get it in the point where your character looks like it's flashing right when you're about to drop out of Unstoppable for the maximum effect, just to gain your determination back quickly. So now what I'm going to show you is the single point targets, the way that you do it. So it's the same basic thing. So you're going to go Daring Shout, Hidden Daggers, and then you at least want to get 2 hits with your Weapon Master Strike, just so that you get that full damage mitigation on them. But what I generally do is I use Weapon Master Strike until my determination is full, because it generates more determination than your Sure Strike does. So, and then obviously we're running Slam, so you want to have that 25% more power. So right before you go Unstoppable, like I have my daily up, you can pop your daily and go into it from there. And obviously artifacts, if you've got the wheel or if you've got the lantern, whichever you use, you can pop those, pop your daily, pop Unstoppable, and then just go ham on it with Sure Strike. So I'll show that to you here really quick. And even IBS, you can throw in an IBS in there just to make your Unstoppable come back quicker. And see, I pop Slam, Unstoppable, and now just using Sure Strike just to finish it off. And you can see how wide of an AoE Slam does. So I was actually hitting all 3 of those dummies. So because of that, I'm proccing my Destroyer no matter what. So just show a couple of clips here from ashores that I ran just to show you how this build works with group comp and in actual dungeon fights, showing you kind of in the mob and then against these two iron golems here. So you'll see I'm throwing daggers. I used my slam to help proc my destroyer, and then obviously that boosted up my determination really fast, so I went unstoppable and then finished this one off with the IBS. So just another clip here from later on in the dungeon, just to show some of the damage and the one-hit ability even at a 2400 item level. So look for that big number there right at the end of the video. But once again, just thank you guys for watching. Any comments, questions, concerns, feel free to leave comments below, anything like that. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you guys.